Cinema Classics is sponsored by the Gateway Film Center and is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to shows online at WCBE.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
It is.
Wow. Man.
VOD?
VOD. But we got to see a movie recently in theaters.
Wow, I know.
It's
exceptional experience.
They are hard to come by, but
know.
you can see a movie. Some theaters are open.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Meanwhile, though, we are in the thrall of online or video on demand or streaming.
Whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But since we use this regularly,
Yeah.
We were thinking maybe our audience might like, just kind of a
Well, the
thumbnail
assumption here
sketch.
is that there are people out there dumber than we are about how some of this stuff works and which service is worth looking at. I'll say in advance, I have a good purview of all of these, most of them, but I won't know all the rates, all the subscription rates.
Oh,
So
no.
That's on everybody
to
sort of research. Okay.
All right, so just clarify.
Yeah.
The term video on demand, generally a blanket term for all of what we're talking about?
Let's say online streaming, online viewing.
Okay.
The only reason is because video on demand to me is like when you just go to like a hub and you rent or buy a movie that is currently in theaters. That's what that means to me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or it would have been in theaters, but you're only
Okay.
I guess what I'm saying is Netflix to me isn't video on demand.
It isn't.
That's what I don't think. I
So-
think it's a streaming subscription service.
All right, and there are really probably three prominent
But let's not get bogged down in that. We're talking about going onto your television and watching a movie.
Well, look, it's good for our audience to know that you have to subscribe to Netflix, you have to subscribe to Hulu, and you have to subscribe to Disney.
But see, here's the thing. So what you're talking about, video on demand, you don't need any of that. You just
That's
need,
correct.
You need a hub,
blanket term,
like a Roku or an Apple TV or some sort of. That's what I was.
To me,
that was the difference. That
yes.
was what I was trying to get.
To
at.
me, this is I see this happen now and then when I read reviews, and I want to know where I can get a movie.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying video on demand, which means
got
you better look it up yourself.
Yeah.
We're not telling you.
Exactly. You got to find it.
Yes, right. You got
So
to find
go ahead.
So-
Let's start with the big one, Netflix.
Yeah, but before we do that,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say something. I think you can Google any film to ask for where you can get the rental.
Yes.
Okay, because it doesn't always appear on, say, a site like IMDb. It doesn't
Right.
always tell you where you can get that movie, but you always can get it if you Google, and then they'll very likely give you the places where you can rent it.
There's a useful little app called
that's
Just Watch.
Oh, that's
that
right.
has been a real help to me.
Oh, good.
And tracking down movies and determining which movies, if I want to say I'm in the mood to see Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. Is that available to stream free anywhere? No, I got to rent it. Shows me where I can rent it, and then I can make that decision whether or not I want to plunk down the few bucks to do that.
Yeah. All right. So the big one is Netflix.
Yeah.
Its advantage being
these days that it produces a lot of its own original content.
Sure.
It also calls together various, television series from around the world. It's got a real global sort of menu there, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I find myself on Netflix these days scrolling aimlessly, though. The collection of classic movies, and by classic I mean anything prior to, 10, 15 years ago, is really kind of thin for me. And I find myself just, skipping around with no results.
Well, for me, I'm interested because of its movie time. I'm interested in the newest original movies on Netflix.
Yeah, lots of those.
Yeah, and rather than scroll through, which is what you're talking about, which I find I'm too impatient for, I will go to the best current movies, or the best original movies on Netflix and Google, and somebody else will have done that work.
Got it.
Because they're putting out new stuff every day. and you can find out all of August online.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big help. Some
I
of
mean, the bottom line is Netflix is the ace.
Sure it is.
Right.
And look
and
at
that's the one.
you and I don't know exactly what the cost is, but it's somewhere between $15 and $20
a
a
month.
month.
They're different.
It's
Right.
really a bargain.
Right.
So
Next up, what do you got?
what do you think about Hulu?
Hulu's at the bottom of the barrel, at the bottom
Okay.
of the of this list. If there's one that you got to get rid of, it's probably Hulu. And I'll tell you why. Just because the amount of selection isn't there. The interface is kind of clunky. It's not as intuitive as Netflix or Amazon Prime. And like I said, the content is really spotty, especially when it comes to movies. Now, there are some great series on there. Pen 15 was one that I really fell in love with about a year or so ago. But the movie selection is sparse. Original productions, every once in a while they do. There are a couple of good ones on there. Right now you got Palm Springs with Andy Samberg, which is a very charming little Groundhog Day-esque rom-com. So they do stuff, just not at the rates or with the breadth and scope of
Not
Netflix.
as extensive. Well, the second one that I use is Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
Now, what do you think?
I love that.
Okay.
Also, the interface leaves a little bit to be desired, I feel like. It's not as easy to kind of... you know what? It seems like the pages don't update regularly.
Okay.
So you're constantly like going through, oh, I've seen this, but the search feature, you can turn up some really obscure movies, especially if you're a Prime member,
Yes.
right? And you get to see these movies for free with your Prime membership. A couple of months ago, I went down a Charles Bronson rabbit hole,
Uh-huh.
and so many of his old titles, obscure titles, are on there.
Okay.
So that's fun. I like that aspect of
Okay.
it.
And for me, because I'm a Prime member, I get it right away. So there's no telling you, trying to have you fill in ID. It knows your computer,
Yeah.
and so you say you look that title up, and it'll just ask you want to play it now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
Right.
It already knows that you're a Prime member.
And also, by the way, you can rent if a movie isn't available to stream for free.
Yes.
You can rent it
Yeah.
through that hub. So
Yeah.
I like Amazon Prime a lot. I would say that if you had to boil it down to two of these, Netflix and Amazon Prime pretty much have you covered. What about Disney Plus?
I don't know. I don't belong. I was going to ask you.
I had it when it first came out. My boys. Whoops.
Look at us.
That's cool. All right. Now, why won't it just shut the F up? Okay. So let's start lining up.
Yeah.
When that first came out, my two boys said, we need that, right? Vincent wanted to see The Mandalorian, which was the new Star Wars universe series that they had on there, a Western-esque thing. Franco wanted all the animated movies, all the Pixar movies. Vincent wanted all the Marvel stuff. And I did. I got it at first. And, it was only like $6 a month.
Okay.
But pretty soon, I was just like, this seems... How many times am I going to watch?
So it's limited.
It is. It's very limited.
Okay.
They keep promising new content, new series, and obviously, due to the pandemic, that's all. A lot of it is on hold. So, for me, wasn't worth it. I cut it loose. They didn't even notice.
Well, I'll tell you, no matter what you might feel about watching it on a screen that is not in the theater, it's a salvation. It's been a salvation for me as a film critic. With the pandemic,
Yeah.
I've been at home. There is nothing in theaters, but I still need to look at films. And Netflix and Prime have done for me what I needed to do.
Yeah, if you need to, those are the ones that you can cover most of your cinematic bases with.
Very good.